Welcome to Affinity Designer. In this video, I'm going to look at the scaling options available for the rounded corners of rectangles, an object's stroke thickness, and applied filter effects. I'm going to start by looking at the rounded corners of a rectangle. So I'll select the rounded rectangle tool and then drag on my page. I'll fill this with red so it's a little clearer. I'll then switch to the Move tool and duplicate the shape by selecting Duplicate from the Edit menu. I'll drag the duplicate to the right, keeping it in line with the original by pressing down the Shift key as I drag. Now we have two identical shapes. You can see on the context toolbar that the corner of both of these shapes is set to a percentage. This means the curvature of the corner will always be proportional to the size of the rectangle. Currently, this is set to 25%. Alternatively, I can set an absolute size for my rounded corners. Notice that the units have switched from percentage to display the document's units, in my case, millimeters. Now, if I select both shapes by dragging out a selection marquee, I can resize them simultaneously using the selections handles. Notice when I've finished the difference in the curvature of the corners, despite the fact both rectangles are precisely the same width and height. This is because the right-hand rectangle's corners remain at their absolute dimensions, regardless of the shape's size, while the left-hand rectangle's corners scale with the shape. Okay, let's tidy up the page by selecting and deleting the original rectangle by pressing the Delete key, and then repositioning the remaining rectangle. Next, I'll look at the scaling options for an object's stroke. So I'll display the stroke panel by clicking its label, and then apply a relatively thick stroke using the width slider. I'll duplicate the rectangle again, and then reposition the duplicate so we can see both shapes. These rectangles are identical in every way, so if I resize them together, they will still look identical. However, with this rectangle selected, on the stroke panel, I'm going to select the Scale with Object option. This means that the stroke on this rectangle will maintain a relative width to the size of the shape, regardless of the shape's size. Meanwhile, the stroke on this rectangle will remain a constant width, regardless of the shape size. Let's check this out by holding down the Shift key and clicking both rectangles, and then resize them simultaneously using the selections handles. Notice how both shapes are identical in height and width, but the left shape stroke has changed width as the rectangle shrank, while the right shape stroke width remained constant. Okay, let's tidy up the page by selecting and deleting the original rectangle and then repositioning the remaining rectangle. I'll also switch off the Scale to Object option so it doesn't distract from my next example. Next, I'll look at the scaling options for filter effects, so I'll display the Effects panel by selecting its label. For ease of demonstrating, I'm going to select the Inner Shadow effect and push all the settings up to 100. Of course, you can apply any effect with any settings you like. I'll duplicate the rectangle again, and then reposition the duplicate so we can see both shapes. By default, filter effects will honour the absolute settings applied in the effects panel. So if I resized these shapes now, the look of the effect would change relative to the look of the shape. You can, however, set effects to scale proportionally with their object, but the setting is a little more hidden than the previous scaling options we've seen in this video. With this rectangle selected, I'll go back to the effects panel and click this cog icon here. This brings up the Layer Effects dialog, where you can tweak your effect and add others. However, it also gives you the option to scale with object. I'll select this and then close the dialog. Now let's see the difference in the effect as I resize the rectangles simultaneously. You can see the right hand shape's effect has honoured its look as the shape was enlarged, while the left hand shape's effect has honoured the absolute settings originally applied. And that's it for this video. Hopefully these tips about vector scaling will allow you to ensure your designs look precisely how intended at any size. If you'd like more information about Affinity Designer, please check out our comprehensive help system and our other video tutorials available from the Help menu. Thanks for watching.